Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm going to call this video, I'm finally motivated to do a video about motivation, which is literally where my vibe is at the moment, because I've literally been a bit like, just going with the flow, like whatever. I literally tried to make a video about motivation and then ended up getting really distracted on hamsters, so that was a fun time. I've literally put a video saying watch me get distracted by my hamsters for 4 straight minutes. That's literally what I've titled it. But I have been on a lovely long walk this morning to somewhere close by, which I thought had a lot of good charity shops, but actually turned out not to, so there we go, that's fun. But basically I'm gonna just do a little video on motivation, because I had like a few like basic like tips for motivation, like logistic tips, such as like a couple of things which I'm going to add in at the end, but it's going to be more motivational quotes, because I literally, not quotes, but like ideas surrounding sort of living and motivation to do certain things and, you know, pushing into the right direction. Because I used to be a big motivational quote kind of person, and I might do a whole video actually on motivational quotes, just to like, for the fun. So let's get right into it. Basically, and a lot of this is based around videos and information I found on the internet, but it's easy to, especially in this day and age and like people in life, to feel motivated by the external validation of other people and not be validated internally. And it can be as well, like you can get into like a rut in life. It's so easy to get into like ruts, especially with lockdown, like it's really like encouraged ruts, I feel like. And like I think the ways that you can get out of this are like for me as well, like you can obviously like move house, and I have looked into moving my house, but I don't really think my house is much of an issue for me at this point. I feel like potentially though, like making new friends and doing things outside that get me outside of my internal bubble, like walks, being around nature, seeing people, meeting new people, learning a new skill. Like I want to maybe like do another language, or maybe get like, I've always wanted to learn keyboard, and I kind of know how to play guitar, but I don't really know how to play keyboard, and I've got a keyboard, so I could always do that. And giving myself a chance to get, but I think it's and like exposure to new things in general, but I think there's always a sense of like giving yourself a rest before you're able to actually like engage in that sort of stuff. I think like having a rest to like get before you get to that point is always going to be like the most healthy thing to do, because if you're not willing to have a rest, like you're just going to burn out completely. And some things you've got to think in life, like not everything is going to be like on your time schedule, not everything's going to be you know, like certain things are always going to come up, so like obviously bearing that in mind, but like especially doing what I'm doing with my online store, it means that I'm not technically an employee, even though I have got like, I work with a company that sort of helps me out with it, or like looks over my shoulder with it, shall I say, but I'm not technically an employee of anyone apart from like myself. So I feel like having that extra freedom is beautiful and amazing, and I love it. But it's also like a new feeling that just about sort of like navigating that, I suppose. And I've heard also doing something difficult is good, and like just going with the concept of like the hardest things are like the hardest things to do are like the most worthwhile, and nothing good comes easy. I would also say though that like finding your bliss and following your bliss and certain things that come so easy, like the people you hang out with and stuff, and that feels easy, like well, that's obviously good. But yeah, I do think some of the hardest things and the biggest places you grow are like the best thing to, that are hardest basically. And yeah, I'm just kind of trying to, you know, avoid negative cycles, stop striving for perfection as much as I can. I think I've like defined myself as a perfectionist, which I try so hard not to be, but just to try and like overlook my negative cycles. But I think it's just about like, once you find yourself in a negative place, to kind of rear back, which I'm about to talk about, to like not crippling yourself from that experience and like being like, oh, like I can never do such and such, I have to just, there was a quote of the day for one of the websites I looked at today, which was every mistake you make is just another pathway to where you want to be. And that's so true. I don't feel like any certain situation can really like uproot your entire like way of being. Like, so you're always going to get back to like where you are in the end. So yeah, about like, yeah, that sort of thing. And someone I watched found that living every day with a fear of dying is a great way to live. I would agree with this to an extent, but obviously you don't want to be stressed. I'm one of these people where like I wouldn't want to stress out over dying because I'm like a warrior, but I think having that as a general like rule of thumb can be good. And I want to like enjoy myself and like reflect on where I am and keep an eye on my life, just making sure I'm like in the right places. Speaking of this motivational fun thing, I found this book on the street called Big Trips on Small Budgets Europe. It's a bit of a what's the word, you know, looking at things to come, because I do want to go to Europe and like do some footage taking and do some travelling and exploring in my 20s and live for what your 20s are supposed to be about. Well, like I don't think everything's about travelling, but I do want to do that as part of like my life. Little spoiler alert. So yes, I'm just learning to enjoy myself more, giving myself creative projects. And I find if you're in an unmotivated place, like this is all very well and good, and I know how this feels as well, which forcing yourself to be proactive can be something once you've rested up and feel able to do that, because I think also forcing yourself when you don't want to do it and you're exhausted is different to forcing yourself once you've got enough energy to do something. Obviously you can't always control that, you know, when your kids are screaming at, you know, 5 o'clock in the morning and you're just exhausted and, you know, certain stuff, you know, but I always feel like God has us all and gives us the energy for the things we need to do. Not to say you're going to be like bright and chirpy for everything, and some things are really difficult, and I totally know that. I've experienced that myself, of course. But there we go, we adjust, don't we, somehow, through the grace of God, I believe. But there we go. So forcing yourself to be proactive, yeah, and that can also help when like finding a voice, and I've been an advocate for this, where like even like making these videos, like I'm forcing myself to be proactive in like doing something that I love to do and enjoy and spread words and connect and sort of like pass this, you know, to other people, and like use a camera and like, you know, do creative stuff with it, do music and all that sort of stuff, and it's helping me find I suppose a voice, but also like I'm shaping myself through doing these videos, because like it makes me like think about things I wouldn't necessarily be doing, because I do like to journal and stuff, but I'm not a massive journaler. I feel like the way I've always processed stuff is through writing music and writing songs and stuff, and that's been like the main way of doing it for me. And obviously then I had therapy, but this is actually a very therapeutic thing for me, but it also not only I feel like can create some sort of somewhat entertaining slash you know, potentially helpful information for someone else, it also helps me to process like what I've experienced and what I'm experiencing. So, but I do think it's the case for anything. Like if you force yourself to be proactive when you're unmotivated to do something that you personally are interested in, it really helps find a voice and like to be like more like push towards that thing and have like push towards that thing basically. And also just remembering like it takes time to progress, and time takes time to process things, and it's not a sprint, and I don't think it's a sprint for any sort of achievement, and they say if you change 1% in a day, you've still completely transformed in 100 days. So I think that's a good mantra to adopt. And like life's not a sprint in general, and I think we live in this instant gratification world where everyone needs everything to be done perfectly, and I think a lot of people potentially can hide behind that societal concept to cover up the fact they're passive aggressive, and it's not something I want to engage in. And I feel like I've been a massive person for this in the past, and I can even admit that, but I'm not about that life anymore. It really is not rewarding. It's just stressful, and it's stressful for everyone around them, so I'm just not bothered to engage in that sort of behaviour anymore. So yeah, and I think just sorry, bit of a brain rest. Oh yeah, just seeing your life on a trajectory. I feel like, because if something goes wrong and you see your life in a certain trajectory, it doesn't mean that trajectory is going to stay that way and that you can't move back to where you need to be. I've spoken in other videos about how I feel like your path veers off and come back, and like you'll always just get to where you want to be eventually anyway. I feel like so I think what as well, this guy was talking about, when you struggle, it helps you understand what you want to stand up for and what matters to you. And he was also talking about how finding the value in environment and safety in the environment, and basically knowing when to give up, even if you're headstrong, can stop so much unnecessary struggle. But equally, it's okay to not be okay. And just in turn, I'm going to be honouring my internal desires, and like self-doubt can be paralysing, really. So, and then just from a quick logistic level, I feel like being in touch with my internal locus of control, which is what the idea is for some people to have certain motivation, which is to know that if you're in like schools and stuff, basically just the internal locus of control is knowing that you have internal control, rather than looking for external control, basically. That's it in long and short. And just, yeah, building consistent, that can help in building consistent habits. And just a little biblical reference: never be anxious, cast all your anxiety on God because he loves you. And basically, I believe this isn't a biblical quote, but we are where we need to be, but there's references to that there in the Bible as well. So, and just not to stray too far from God, which is kind of out of context, but there we go, I tried. But yeah, I feel like this has been a good little video on motivation, so I hope something has come out of it for you all, or it certainly has been for me, because I enjoy making these videos. I'll speak to you soon, bye!